situations.
So that there is an indictment on the front office as well. They didn't, they signed Rashaan Evans. He never saw the field for some inexplicable reason. I still can't figure that one out. But number two, allowing Mazi Smith to drop 40 pounds. When you drafted him to fill that void, you already knew that you struggled stopping the run before his arrival, right? That's why you traded for Jonathan Hankins the year before that, because you were like, oh, snap, we don't have a one technique body type that can just, we can put in the middle of the formation and say, hey, don't move, eat blocks so our linebackers can flow. They had to trade for him. And then they drafted, another similar guy that they thought was going to help with the same exact department. They saw how valuable Jonathan Hankins was. They drafted Mazi Smith, and then Dan Quinn wants to turn him into a penetrating 3-tech.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't care what reporter I piss off when I say this. That staff, the Cowboys staff, is the reason why Mazi Smith lost that weight. Because they weigh in every week.
You saw that. They tried to spin it. That ain't on them. They
tried to spin that. They weigh in on every Thursday. They weigh in. Okay. Yep. And if you're not at a certain weight, you get fined. Now it might be, I don't know the exact, particulars when it comes to this. Like maybe if you're over a certain weight, maybe that's when you get fined. But at the same time, like they're getting his weight. They know they're like, you don't see on the scale, like, oh, well, wait, he's losing all this weight. Like maybe we should tell him to stop because it's gonna, affect his game. Because here's the thing, right? When we talk about the two defensive tackles from last draft that a lot of people like to compare to each other because they play for rival teams and they were two of the highest graded defensive tackles in the 2023 draft. That's Mazi Smith and that's Jalen Carter. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me put this into perspective for people. If the Philadelphia Eagles asked Jalen Carter, hey, gain 30 pounds. We know that you're a pass rushing 3 technique. We're going to have you be a run stopping 1 technique. Okay. So there are 2 things when it comes to, any sport in general. What's your best athletic trait and what's your best skill trait? Athletic trait for Jalen Carter in this instance is his quickness. If you make him gain weight, well, he's not going to be as quick. He's not going to be as effective because he's not being his best athletic trait isn't being maximized. And if you're asking him, hey, his skill trait that is the best for him is his ability to rush the passer. Well, if you're telling him, hey, we just want you to hold up blocks, be a 1 technique, do 1 tech things, he's not going to be nearly the player that he was, So when they ask Mazi Smith, hey, lose this weight. Okay, so his best athletic trait is his strength. You're now compromising that. And, now you're asking him to rush the passer. Like, that's not his deal there. It's like, I don't feel like they maximized him as a player. Like, I feel like they had buyer's remorse about the pick because it's not necessarily like the Cowboys are one of these teams that like they do go by the Bible of you draft premium positions early. And, the fact that they drafted a run stopping 1 technique, it was a departure from what they did. And I felt like they had a
philosophical change. Exactly. I was hyped about that because it signified change. Like, exactly.
And I feel like they had buyer's remorse. Like they didn't love what they bought, even though if they would have just kind of just stuck it out and actually played him in the way that he played in Michigan, he would have been fine. Like I don't think I missed on the evaluation of Mazi Smith. I really don't. It's just that when he got to the NFL, he was being asked to do something that's completely different from what he did in college.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, in a lot of ways, and I haven't heard anybody mention this since it happened, but it's like the conventional wisdom of, you talked about positional value, right? The defensive tackle position isn't really considered one of the core 5 positions, right? In terms of value, right? So the Cowboys started to generate, like immediately when they drafted Mazi last year, that national media blew up mocking them for, taking a non-pass rushing prototype in the first round. Okay. I think Will McClay knew what he was doing with that selection, he knew what the team needed. And I think that they had the right plan in place for Mazi Smith. But what did Will McClay do immediately after? Like, I don't know if it was the post-draft presser. I think it was actually. So it was about, 3 days after they drafted Mazi, they go on the post-draft presser, and Will McClay starts talking about how they think that he has the potential to become a pass rusher. So it's almost like trying to validate the decision to draft Mazi Smith when you took him knowing that you needed help in the run stopping department, not the pass rushing department, right? You already excelled in that. That's your area of strength, right? You drafted Mazi Smith because he was different. He was a true 330-pound run stuffer, a block eater, just a force in the middle. Somebody that you really only had one other body type like that. And that was the guy that you traded for, Jonathan Hankins. Okay. But then they tried to almost, it's like prove themselves, to prove a point, like to prove that it was worth it to take him there and like turn him into a pass rusher, almost as if to just kind of like, it's like an aha moment, like an I told you so type thing, where they're flexing their muscle against national media as opposed to just sticking to their original plan with them.